another Soleil Space Short Film Saturday. We are so excited to be back. And we have two amazing filmmakers with us today. We're gonna dive into the nitty gritty. We're gonna talk about everything great, but first my name is 𝗕𝗓𝗔𝗕𝗟, and I am the Community Growth Manager at Soleil Space. Before we hop into the filmmakers, let me tell you a little bit about Soleil. Our mission is to achieve a more equitable and representative global media landscape through film, television, and branded content. Our focus is on the global diasporas of Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East, with goals of elevating untold stories from these cultures. Through that, we form closer transcultural community bonds and provide opportunities and resources for our creators to produce premium world-class content. We specialize in long-form scripted and documentary film, television, and branded short-form digital content. We aim to lift up underrepresented voices, and there is no better way to do that than via short films. Shorts are often the purest form of artistic expression and often, but not always, executed within the boundaries of smaller production budgets. Since launching Short Film Saturday in late summer of 2021, we have featured 45 films from 36 filmmakers in 20 countries to date. And we are just about to add on to that. We're making those numbers even bigger because today with me, I have 𝗕𝗓𝗢𝗗𝗔𝗕 and Emmanuel Afolabi. So let me tell you a little bit about them. 𝗕𝗓𝗢 is an Egyptian director and screenwriter. Her debut documentary film, Happily Ever After, was co-directed with Emmanuel Afolabi. It had its premiere at the International Documentary Film Festival in Amsterdam in 2016 and went on to be screened at more than 20 international film festivals. Her short fiction film, The Trap, which we are watching today, was selected for the Semaine de la Critique at the Festival de Cannes and the Toronto International Film Festival in 2019. Her work focuses mainly on exploring the depth and complexity of the human psyche and relationships. Very interesting. And then we also have Emmanuel Afolabi, a Nigerian-American film and digital director with a degree in film production. He's based in the USA, living in Detroit, Michigan. Afolabi's work explores our collective humanity and the topic of identity, giving his subjects and clients individuality and dignity through visual storytelling. His primary mission is to empower communities of color and use visual platforms as a means of amplifying an array of voices. So, with that, I would love for our filmmakers to introduce the films to us. We're going to be watching 𝗕𝗓𝗢𝗗𝗓's film, The Trap, first. So 𝗕𝗓𝗢, could you tell us a little bit about The Trap, please?
Sure, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy I'm screening my film today. The Trap takes place in Egypt in a very specific location and in a very specific moment in a relationship between a couple. And at its essence, it questions our understanding of consent.
Very nice. And then after that, we're going to be watching Emmanuel's film, Biodiaspora. Emmanuel, could you introduce that for us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. My film is pretty much an exploration of identity and what it means to be Black living in the US or Europe or the Caribbean. So I interviewed just a whole bunch of Black millennials and ask them questions that pertain to their identity. So that's pretty much what my film is about.
Great. So here's how today is going to work. We're going to watch the two films and then do not go anywhere. When you see those credits rolling, you stay right here because we're going to come back and do a Q&A with both of these amazing filmmakers. And we're really going to talk about all the themes and all the really cool stuff that they've decided to explore in their films. So don't go anywhere. You got to stick around for it, okay? So with that, make sure you like and subscribe. We have Short Film Saturdays, 3 Saturdays a month. So most of the Saturdays we're here, so you should be too. And with that, let's go ahead and watch those films. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Short Film Saturday. We have just watched two amazing films, The Trap by 𝗕𝗓𝗢𝗗𝗓 and Biodiaspora by Emmanuel Afolabi. And I could see by the comments that we were really enjoying it. I'm so glad. So now that we've seen the films, we got questions, right? So we're gonna hop into the Q&A with our filmmakers now. I am going to be taking audience questions at the end. So if you guys have any questions, hold on to those until I call for them, please. And then we'll get to ask your questions as well. So because we saw The Trap first, 𝗕𝗓𝗢𝗗𝗓's film, we're gonna go ahead and start with those questions. 𝗕𝗓𝗢, my first question for you it's very brave to realistically depict a woman trying to escape a domestic abuse situation like the one that was depicted in your film. So what made you want to make a film with that subject matter? What made you want to make The Trap in the first place?
Yeah, so thank you everyone for watching and for staying. Yeah, for me, I think like first for personal reasons, like I am familiar with the topic personally. And also I've worked for a long time with a lot of feminist institutes who deal with violence and with abuse. And for me, it was always striking that no matter how different the conditions are, like there is something about the experience of abuse and violence that is quite literally similar in many situations. And I think it's hard to articulate it. And that's why I wanted to make The Trap.
Wonderful. No, wow. Okay, that's very, very cool. So then were there any obstacles to getting the film made, considering the subject matter and the graphic ending scene? We know not everyone is very okay with films like this, especially films with feminist leanings. They just tend to make people upset sometimes. So yeah, were there any obstacles to getting it made?
Yeah, of course. Like it's quite a lot of long stories, to be honest. I'll pick the easiest. The film was actually shot twice. So the first time, like we worked on it for a very long time, around 3 years. And the first time we shot it, we got a lot of backlash from even the filmmaking industry, like who were deeply offended for a woman to attempt to speak about this topic. Like, and so we were basically shut down. The location was trashed and attacked, and we kind of had to recast and rebuild the entire thing to get it done. So yeah, definitely lots of challenges.
Wow. Wow, that is insane. Well, thank you for still going ahead and making this amazing film. That is, wow, that is insane. So were there any safety concerns for the cast and crew during filming then?
Yeah, that's the complex part, because of course there was a safety concern, but it's the fact that like our societies are so systematically conservative that it comes even from within the filmmaking industry. People do have reservations about these topics and how they're presented, and these people are not necessarily just the audience or just the state censorship. It's also filmmakers and film crew members who had a problem with it, who thought it was against their beliefs and hence it shouldn't exist.
Okay, wow. Wow, that's very, very interesting. So, okay, I guess to kind of tilt the conversation in a slightly different direction now, one of the most compelling aspects of this film is the visual narrative around abject poverty. So still bringing it back to this, the location, can you tell us about your choice of location and how you use the cinematography to capture this very isolated, remote, and abject situation?
Yeah, so the area, Agami, the area where the film takes place, is actually used to be in the 60s and 70s, a coastal resort, the hub of the rich and the artists, and it had like all the fun, outgoing, liberal atmosphere that you could find in a summer place. And along the years, with a lot of changes politically and economically of the country entirely, the place was slowly abandoned by this elite class. Not even elite class, they're also like kind of, it used to be different. And eventually it became an area that is quite dangerous, that is an area for mostly drug traders and weapon traders and sex trafficking. And it is a place where unmarried couples kind of try to go to spend time together, because it's not allowed basically to spend time together if you're not married. And for me, that's kind of was also kind of a very perfect metaphor for the relationship itself. It's something that used to be glamorous but turned into a very violent and very unwelcomed experience.
Okay, wow. Wow, that's very interesting. So then for people outside of Egyptian culture, what are the boundaries that you're pushing with this film in terms of how people see Egyptian women, but then also in terms of how they see themselves?
Yeah, for me, I think like I really wanted this film to provoke a conversation about consent and about body ownership and about how we view abuse. And I was surprised that like with most of the screenings everywhere in the world, like there was a huge debate with the audience, with themselves, whether this was rape or not, whether this was abuse or not. And something that is designed, yes, to ask question is still very clearly assault and rape, but it's a question that still is not very clear everywhere in the world, which is why I made it a film, basically.
That's very interesting. So then what was the reaction specifically in Egypt to this film? Were audiences more receptive to it, or was it similar to the backlash that you got during production?
No, so it did screen in Egypt a few times, and people were also, I think it's a film where you easily hate it so much because it is a violent experience to watch it intensely. Yeah. It's an intense experience. So a lot of people hated it and a lot of people loved it. And the controversy was also there, like people really discussed what this relationship was, and that was also good. But I must say, like in Egypt, a lot of people liked the guy, which I found very weird. Yeah.
Wow, that is very interesting. So then, so abroad, it seems to have opened up the conversation that you wanted it to, but are people having this the conversation that you want them to when they view the film in Egypt? Are Egyptian people watching this, like really discussing it in the way that you hoped that they would?
Yeah, it's of course it's slightly also different, but still it's like I could hear teenagers, not teenagers, but like young people intensely discussing like why was it, what was this basically.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Very cool. Okay, so we're gonna pop over to Emmanuel's side now and ask him a couple of questions about his film, and then I will have questions for both of you as well. So Nada, we'll be back to you again, and then we'll take audience questions. So Emmanuel, your turn. What inspired you to make Biodiaspora?
Yeah, first of all, great film, Nada. That was so beautiful to see that, and at the same time, just a lot to digest as well. So, kudos to you making a film like that. But yeah, to answer your question, let's say, so my film, pretty much started from me moving to, New York City. And when I first got to New York, it was a cultural shock to me coming from Nigeria. And it was quite diverse, right? Coming from a place like Nigeria, where a lot of people are, pretty much, have a black skin, right? And we consider ourselves black, but, coming to New York City, the United States specifically, the word blackness has, different meaning because of the diversity that, that the United States has, right? Is especially New York City, it just has this overwhelming, just people from different places. So, I got inspired just to, interview different Black people from different places. Some of them are from Brazil, some of them are from, West Africa, from Europe. And, I think one other person was also from Egypt as well. So, just interviewing a whole bunch of people and just asking them what does Blackness mean to them. And, even the word Blackness, where does it come from? And yeah, so that's pretty much what inspired me just to dive deep into more of an identity topics.
Very cool. So then to give, I guess, context for where your head was at when you made this, or even now, from what age to what age did you live in Nigeria? And then from what age to what age did you live in the United States?
Yeah, so I moved to the United States when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
So I've been living in Nigeria my entire life after that, before that. And yeah, so I moved and, I started middle school, high school here in the United States. And, you can imagine just like as a young, boy growing up and it's kind of like, getting to his teenage years, it was more of a culture shock, just to experience the definition of Blackness, and even dealing with my own identity as well. What does it mean to be an African as well? And, coming here, not necessarily having a direct connection to the history of African Americans and the enslavement, but, also kind of having the, just the culture, the Nigerian, African culture as well. So yeah, that was pretty much what kind of got me inspired to tell stories like this.
Very cool. So then you were saying a bit about where the different people you interviewed were from. How did you pull together your pool of subjects? We'll call them. Were they friends or were they from a casting call? How did you get these people together?
Yeah, some of these people are my friends, and some of them, I put out a call on Instagram, and yeah, and some people reached out, and yeah, that's how we made it to be.
Very cool. So then in Biodiaspora, we're discussing quite a few different aspects of Blackness. So then I guess to pull it all together, what is the central message being conveyed in your film? Or like another way to ask it would be like, what is the thematic question being answered by your film?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's not really an answer, but more of like when people watch this film, I want them to kind of come up with their own definition of what Blackness means to them, because, the word Black, like Nada from Egypt, can be Black, although she doesn't have the Black skin, right? So it's really different for everybody, what Blackness means to them. So that was kind of the question that I want to, I guess, put out there to the audience for them to ask themselves, what does Blackness mean to them? Because, we as Black people, we're very diverse as well. We're not just Black, we are, you're from, for example, you're from South Africa, right? And,
wait, no, I'm not.
a
I'm
couple,
from the US, but I'm currently living in South Africa. So that's also a very interesting, that's a whole different conversation, because being Black also means something very different over here than it does in the US. And that's something I'm kind of navigating and learning about now, which is very cool.
Exactly, right? So yeah, wherever you go, you always meet Black people, and we're not all the same, although we're also connected from, we came from Africa as well. I guess that's kind of what connects us, but over time, we are different people. So yes, whatever Blackness means to you, we're not a monolith, we are diverse group of people. So yeah.
Very cool. So then to turn the film's question on to you, do you identify as Black? And if so, what defines your Blackness for you?
That's an interesting question. Yes, I do identify as Black, coming from, Nigeria and then living in the US and experiencing, just the Black culture that the US, offers, and also the African culture. I do identify as Black, but, but am I a human being too? Yes, I am a human being, and I can define myself, whatever I want to define myself, right? My identity is, also pretty much tied to who I am, and, and where I come from, but also I'm also, a human being as well. I believe that we're all created by God, and, we have that identity as well, that, God has already given us as well. So I know human beings, we tend to put labels and on just different people, we call each other white, Black, yellow or red, brown, whatever, label we come up with as human beings. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Very cool. So then how have Black identifying audiences reacted to your film?
How does the audience reacted to my film?
Yes, but
So can you
specifically,
repeat
so I guess
that?
all audiences, but then specifically audience members who identify as Black, how are they reacting to it?
No, I think this is more of an uplifting, film for a lot of people, they to be able to see themselves and to be able to see, beautiful people that is being represented. And just the idea of, representation, I think is really big, so that was what I feel like the most important part of the film. But, I think other people also have different opinions about it. Some people, you can also, just go to the comment sections as well on, like, Vimeo. You can see a whole bunch of opinions about the film, but, you know, everybody has their own opinions, but I think for those who are watching the film and wanted to kind of seek a sense of community and a sense of representation, they can directly go to the film and learn something, but yeah, sometimes you make films and it's not for the general, public, and sometimes you make films for a specific group of people, so yeah.
Very cool. Wow, very cool. So then I have a question for both of you, Nada and Emmanuel. Introducing people to different film cultures is a big goal for Short Film Saturday, right? We have audience members from all around the world and we have filmmakers from all around the world. So really just kind of getting, exchanging cultures is a big thing for us, and we absolutely love it. We're thoroughly enjoying it. So could you please tell us your favorite filmmakers from your respective cultures so that hopefully people in the audience can go and check them out? And Nada,
Should I go first or
oh,
not?
yeah, go ahead, Emmanuel, go for it.
Okay. I mean, I think that I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, I'm not really necessarily inspired by, directors. I'm just inspired by life, and just the people that I get to come across with, in life. And I mean, there's definitely movies that speaks to maybe my current situations or my current seasons. Sometimes when I look at Barry Jenkins' movie, I get inspired. Or sometimes when I look at, movies like Black for Young, cinematography and how we shoots Black people, that inspires me as well. Movies such as directors such as Andrew Dosunmu as well, a Nigerian-American filmmaker. And some of his films about home, some films that speaks about home and identity, usually inspires me. But to be honest, I'm everyday life and people that I come across with, I find that to be inspiring as well. So
wow, very cool. Nada, how about you? Any favorite Egyptian filmmakers?
Yeah, it's such a tough question. I have so many.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
So I would recommend Nadine Soleil, who's a documentarian, and my favorite film for her is Mother of the Unborn. I think it was released in 2014 or something. So that's a must watch from Egypt. I love also Hala Lotfi, who works with both documentary and fiction and has so many great films in her career. So also check out her. My third would be Mohammed Khan, whose films I really adore.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. So now we have a full list. We have some new filmmakers that we all need to check out. So with that, I would like to open up the floor to audience questions. Audience members, if you have any questions that you want to ask Nada or Emmanuel, go ahead and type them in the comment section below, and we'll get to those now. So while we're waiting for you guys to think up and type up those questions, I would like to know what is next for the two of you. Are you currently working on any projects? What should we be looking forward to? Emmanuel, you can go ahead first on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually, getting into narrative films. So yeah, definitely look forward to some narrative films for me, and yeah, and just a couple documentaries and yeah, commercial projects. Kind of diving deep into more personal projects this summertime, and yeah, so that's what I'm working on.
Very cool. Very nice. And Nada, how about you?
Yeah, so I've been shooting a documentary for over 3 years now. So, and we're currently editing it. So yeah, so it takes place in the conservative village in the south of Egypt. And it's about a group of very charming, rebellious young women who who form a street theater troupe and rebel against their community's strict rules. And I'm hoping to be done with it next year, hopefully.
Oh, wow. That sounds very cool. What is the title of it? So we know what we're looking out for.
It's a working title, so it will change, I promise. Okay. It's Land of Women.
Oh, I do like that title, though. That's a good one. That is a good one, but okay. It may or may not be Land of Women, so we have to keep that in mind, but it sounds very cool. So then, with these very cool upcoming projects, how can audiences keep up with you? Are we on social media, other websites? Should we just be checking your IMDb? Like, what is the best way for people to keep up with the two of you? Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I think the best way is social media for sure. Instagram, Emmanuel.Afolabi. And yeah, it's the best way to reach out. I post behind the same processes and just projects that I'm working on or projects that I need help with. So yeah, it's the best way to stay in touch.
Great. And Nada, how about you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not really active on social media. So so for me, I don't have a website, and like, honestly, like, it's complicated to try to share.
No worries. So do you have an IMDb?
Yes, for sure.
Perfect. Okay, so then that's how we'll keep up with you. We'll make sure we're checking your IMDb page so we know when new cool stuff is coming out. Very exciting. So let's go ahead and look at audience questions. I think people are still typing. Let's go, guys. Audience questions. It's now or never. It's now or never. Okay, I'm seeing one here for Emmanuel. So, okay, yeah, so they're really paying attention. So earlier I did say that you're living in Detroit, but you had mentioned that the film was made in New York. So has your opinions or your views on Blackness changed from moving from New York to Michigan?
Yeah, I recently moved to Michigan, by the way. I moved 6 months ago. So but I've lived in New York pretty much since I moved to the US. I would say not really, because I haven't really, I'm still diving deep into the culture here in Detroit. So yeah, so that I mean, my girlfriend is a native Detroiter, and and I've been kind of learning just like what it means to come from Detroit, and what does Blackness means, and how do Black people do things here, and yeah, because we have different cultures as well. The Midwest, Black culture in the Midwest is different from the West and the East, and the South. So but yeah, it's just something that I'm still kind of learning.
Very cool. And then, okay, here we have one for Nada. So, okay, this person's asking about other female filmmakers in Egypt, because obviously your film is amazing, groundbreaking, and has opened up a conversation that clearly needed to happen. So are there other female filmmakers in Egypt that are doing similar stuff that we should be, looking out for?
Yeah, so the first two that I recommended are fierce Egyptian female directors whose work I love. There's so many more. There's Ayten Emin and Mai Zaid and Maysoon Masri and Nadine Khan, and yeah, the list goes on. I can recommend things forever, I guess.
Oh,
but check out 𝗬𝗧 as well. It's the film by the latest film by 𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗕𝗜, and it premiered last year in Cannes. And it's a great feature.
Okay, very cool. All right, so we have a whole list of films that we got to watch now. I'm really excited. I'm definitely going to check these out. And then we have, so this will be the last question from the audience questions that we get to ask. This one is for both of you. In what ways are you interested in telling stories that bridge identities and experiences? For instance, the dynamics for West Africans towards North Africans. That's very interesting. Who wants to tackle this one first?
Yeah, that's interesting because I've always thought about just like, you know, just what it means to be an Egyptian, you know, and because it's so different from a West African, you know, like Nigerian kind of, because even in Africa, we're different. You know, Africa is not a country, you know, Africa is a continent. And, you know, I'm like my culture is totally different from, you know, Nada's culture, you know, like the Nigerian culture is totally different from the Egyptian culture. It's totally different from the Kenyan and the Ethiopian. And, you know, we might have like similarities here and there, but the languages we speak is so different. And like, even in Nigeria, we have over 120 languages just in Nigeria alone, you know? So yeah, you know, so I think that there's a wealth of knowledge to learn, you know, just in Africa that, you know, I feel like it's just, yeah, to kind of dive into it is quite a lot, you know, like the knowledge, the people, the culture, you know, the clothing, the languages, the food, you know, we eat is so different that, you know, I think that, yeah, it's definitely something that I think about is how do we bridge the gap and tell these stories, you know, but first we have to understand kind of like who we are, you know, as people in these different places and countries, and then we can start, you know, to really tell, you know, us to kind of discuss this kind of like conversations, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Nada, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Emmanuel. Like, it's for me, it's something that I think about constantly, and thank you for the amazing question. I think it like a lot of the time we're asked as filmmakers to kind of contextualize for other cultures, even like Nigeria to Egypt or South Africa to Kenya, like to contextualize the simple facts for people to be able to access a film. And I think that this is valid because, of course, we don't know a lot about each other's cultures. But as for me, like the thing is, like, the more the film is representing a question that the filmmaker from this specific place is asking deeply of his own or her own community, the better that it is reflective, and the better that it is an actual exchange. So yeah, so for me, like, what I try to do is always push the boundaries of form and ask complicated questions. And I know that it gives false premise, like it can give a false image of a specific country or specific place, or but that is something that I choose not to bother myself too much with.
Yeah. Yeah, just to add to what Nada was saying as well, like such a great point, you know, because you can't really, you know, it's hard to tell a story about other people that it's not really where you're from. I feel like, you know, in order to tell other people's stories, you kind of have to, there has to be almost like a human element and a human connection. So like when I look at Nada's film, there's a human connection to it, you know, because it's something that a lot of people deal with all over the world, right? So, and our film, which is based in, you know, Egypt, right? You know, it has a connection to someone that might be based in, you know, in the US or based, you know, in Europe. So I think that, I think that's what filmmaking is. Like, you can tell stories about where you're from, or you can tell stories about other people, but it just has to have a human element to it, if it makes sense. So I think that's how you bridge the gap.
Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, that is amazing. And I think that is the perfect question for us to finish off on. Thank you so much to the two of you, Nada and Emmanuel, not just for your amazing films, but also for taking the time to chat with us about them. We have thoroughly enjoyed it. Our next short film Saturday is June 4th. We're taking 1 week off. We're back on June 4th, and it's going to be a surprise who our filmmakers are on, who our filmmakers are. So if you want to know who's going to be on, you can check our Instagram, our social media sites, and the website. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course. You know all that YouTube stuff. And that's all from us. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.